Okay, our next question, we'll start with Kathy Volter and then work our way back down. Do you think that Dayton is a welcoming city for immigrants? And do you think that is important?
I think Dayton is very diverse. Since the last 10 years, I've seen such a wide range of diversity in our community that I think it is welcoming. I do think it's a welcoming community. For immigrants, I believe that we would have open our doors and our community to folks from other countries, to the school system, be a part of the community, participate. I think definitely our community's in that vein.
Thank you. Leslie Carr?
Same question?
Same question.
That's something that I'd really have to look into. I don't know how much interest there has been in immigrants coming here. I know as far as a welcoming community, one of the main things I'd like to see are some well-lit, comfortable, walkable streets. That includes everyone. When you can walk down the street, you don't need a vehicle. There are other transportation options. So if that's an avenue that we feel that we need to explore to welcome immigrants, I would say that's where we would start, is to make mobility equal for everyone, people that don't have a car.
Thank you, Leslie. Bill Burns.
Do I think this city is a welcoming city? Yes, I do. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be here. I came back to this city 45 years ago after the military. So yes, I think it's welcoming. But I also think that this is not, I don't know if this is an issue, just a city issue, but a human issue. You can't tell city government you can't legislate being a welcoming city. That has to come from the citizens. And by gosh, I'm telling you, we got some great citizens. So do I think it's a welcoming city? Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Tucker.
As far as the city being a welcoming city, I would have to say yes, it is. Being of the younger generation, a lot of people that I know who graduated with me decided to move out of town. And a lot of them have now decided to come back, and more are starting to come back. And that shows me that the people feel that this is a great community, whether any nationality that you are from. I graduated high school 10 years ago now with a guy who was from Pakistan. How we found Dayton on a map, I don't know, but I can tell you from day one, he was welcomed in our city, and still one of my best friends today. So I think that this is definitely a community that anybody feels welcome.
Jerry Gifford.
In the words of Mr. Haas, that sounds like a question for Mitch McConnell. So, as far as Dayton is concerned, when you walk through the doors and you walk through the streets, you're welcome in Dayton. I don't think there's ever been a time when anyone has ever been not welcome. I feel like our school system is that way. I feel like the city, the churches, everyone works together. Maybe we're not the biggest city, but I think we're one of the best.
Thank you. Jeff Haas.
I believe this is a welcoming city, and I welcome anyone here, whether they were born here or immigrated here, as long as they're law-abiding citizens like the rest of us.
Thank you. Ben Baker.
The more people I meet in Dayton, the more I learn that it is one of the more welcoming towns you'll ever meet, no matter the nationality or the creed. So I do believe that we are a welcoming community to all nationalities. We welcome them to bring their culture, and we welcome to share ours with them. So Dayton's a fantastically welcome town.
Thank you. Joe Neary.
The first time I ran 6 years ago, just going around knocking on doors and nobody knew me, and I got a lot of "y'all ain't from around here, are you?" And I guess I am an immigrant. As were our parents or grandparents or great-grandparents. This is a multi-generational city for the most part. And not that there is a distrust of outsiders, but there is a caution. But once you earn their trust, they are very loyal. So I am very open to the variety that new people bring in. the new ideas as long as they are contributing members. And I would support anyone who is a positive influence in our city, no matter where they came from.
Thank you. Mr. Lynn?
Yes, I agree. I think our city is a very welcoming city. I think our schools are. I think our churches are. It's just a nice, quiet, well, I can't really say that quiet, but nice city and community to grow up in, and we do welcome anybody to come into town.
Thank you. Jennifer Sierra.
I'm not from Dayton, but I have found it to be a very welcoming town. I've enjoyed meeting people here, being out on the campaign trail and going door to door. People have been very accepting of me, and they do say, well, "You're not from here," like Joe. No, but I am a Kentuckian, and just because I went to high school over in Kenton County doesn't mean that I can't fit in here. And I've met a lot of people from different races, cultures, and no one seems to have a problem with being accepted in this town. I find that quite refreshing. I think it's more of a generational shift that's going on. The younger generations seem to be more accepting of all kinds of people, and I like that. That's one of the reasons why I live here. I don't want my daughter growing up in a homogeneous area.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll start the next question with Leslie, because you answered that, right, Kathy? Yes, okay. So we're going to start the next question with Leslie Carr. It's no secret that some council meetings have been tense and combative. Why do you think some meetings are that way, and what will you do to improve the civility among the city's elected leaders?
Wow. One of the things that we have to look for our future council is that they understand the main duties of council are to enact and enforce ordinances and to ratify the budget. So keeping on track with that, I would say we would have to start with teamwork. It's time to review all of our ordinances, I believe, with the priority being the rental and the blight ordinances. So if you put together people in teams, say these 3 people review the rental license ordinance, and start them on a path that you work together for the greater goal. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you. Bill Burns?
You said the council meetings can get a little testy. Yes, they've known to be that way. But I will tell you what my slogan is. I'm a voice, not an echo. I will not bow down. If citizens contact me and they have a concern, I will back every citizen to its fullest. That's not being testy. That's being responsible for what my job is as a councilman. I listen to all citizens, and I will continue to listen to the citizens. I'm not an echo. I'm a voice.
Thank you, Bill. Joe Tucker.
As far as council meetings getting a little testy, I think that in any business situation, everybody's been there before. Nobody agrees with everybody. Not everybody's supposed to agree with everybody. I think you put a bunch of strong-minded individuals who are passionate about your city and your community in the same room, and you're going to have those arguments. But ultimately, I think you have to agree to disagree sometimes. I think that you have to step back from the situation. I think you have to realize that everybody in that room is there for the same goal. Because if you weren't there for the same reason, you wouldn't put the time and effort in that all of us have tried to do, and then a lot of other people in the community do. You just have to remember that that one goal is to make our community a better place.
Thank you. Jerry Gifford?
I kind of agree. Sometimes we get combative, but I think that if you care about your city, you try to think things through. You want to make sure you're making the right decision. It's your call. And there have been a lot of times when I don't agree with things, and if the majority do, then I got to think that maybe they're right and I'm wrong. I can take criticism. I can hand it out as well. But I do feel like we're supposed to be on the same page, but we're never going to completely all agree on something. In my mind, that's a terrible thing. That's why you have a group of people put together That's why teams are successful. There are passive people, there are aggressive people. That's what it takes to make a team work.
Thank you. Jeff?
I've been to these meetings and I've seen how contentious they get. I think what I see, the thing that I really notice is when these debates were getting contentious, in particular the one over where to hold the council meetings. And what I saw was a lack of to find a compromise. There was a compromise there. The polling location where they wanted to renovate the council chambers, where they want to renovate the council chambers is going to be a polling location. In the middle of the election year, I don't think that's a good idea to renovate that. We were having increased attendance at the council meetings. So it was a good idea, I thought, to move the council meetings to another location to accommodate those crowds. So why couldn't we come up with an agreement where we move the location, put off renovating the council chambers until after the election, and then the new council can decide what happens from there? I think everybody wins there.
Ben Baker?
I don't know if I've missed a council meeting since I moved to Dayton, and I think I saw about as many fights as meetings. Why were there so many contentious arguments? I believe Joey was right and Bill was right when they said there's that many strong-willed people who are that passionate about their community. But I do believe that it is a council person's best role to play in the best interest of those that have elected him to serve them. So I plan to take any agendas that are in front of me and put them aside and vote for what is best for the people that vote us in.
Thank you. Joe Neary.
I think it was your line, Mr. Monk's chaos in Dayton
May
in
have
your
been.
River City News. I never want to see a headline like that again about Dayton. Ever. I mean, I commend you on your coverage of Dayton, but I don't want to see our city council become an attraction. I want to see it become a functioning, valuable group of people that can work together, that can compromise, that can realize that maybe somebody else does have a better idea, and that can treat city council as a public service, not a political gain. I think we should fight for what's best for the citizens, not for the next election. And I think if we keep those things in mind and realize that if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in a room full of dummies, and you're not going to learn anything. So I think it's a mutual respect with everyone else. It's a protocol with the council moving. Not to brag, but I was the one that came up with the solution to that, which was very readily accepted. And I think we need to move towards that by compromising with each other and respecting everyone.
Thank you. Denny Lynn.
You know, over my course of my career, I attended many, many council meetings over 38 years. I've seen many council members and many mayors. And there was always, situations where council didn't get along with mayor, mayor didn't get along with council. But I think one of the big things there that can help alleviate that from happening is that I think better communication between the council members and the mayor could help save a lot of problems before you get to the council chambers and start having these meetings. I've seen it too many times where so much is hashed out on that council floor that doesn't need to be. If they read their communication before the meeting and brought it back to the meeting or had email conversations between each other, you can take care of a lot of those problems before you even get into that room. I'm not saying that this year is any worse than any other year. Maybe a couple instances, like somebody mentioned, the biggest one I think was over where to have council meetings. I believe that is taken care of now, and thankfully it is, because I think a lot of citizens are getting tired of listening to it.
Thank you, Denny.
The main goal, too, for the council members, I'm done.
I'm sorry, yeah. For this one.
Nothing like getting cut off, huh?
Jennifer Sierra.
I plan on bringing patience, packing a lot of patience in my bag if I get elected to council, and compromise skills, of compromise, patience, tolerance, communication. All of those things are really important. And the one thing that's most important is we're all adults and we should act like adults. Bullying is never accepted. It's not accepted in our schools. It should not be accepted on our city council. I believe that we can disagree or agree to disagree civilly. There is no reason to yell at people and bully people. There just isn't any reason for it. I don't expect to get on council and have everyone agree with me. I know that people are going to disagree, but I welcome that. I want to make sure that that person who disagrees with me is heard, that I hear them, that I maybe look at their point of view and think, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe how could I convince them that I'm right without bullying them? So I think that those are the qualifications that I could bring that would make it a better city council.
Thank you, Jennifer. Kathy Volter.
I've had quite a few sleepless nights on Tuesday, the first Tuesdays of the month. When it comes down to it, no council should always agree on everything. That's why we're all there. We have different thoughts, different themes. Bottom line, I think everybody is there to represent their constituent, and everybody's doing what they think is best for the people that they represent. Sometimes I think we all need to just stop and take a breath, step back, and think about a compromise before it gets to the point where we have chaos in Dayton, and plan to bring respect to every meeting.
Thank you. Okay, so Bill Burns will answer the next question first. And that question is, how can the city better fight blight and vacant housing in its neighborhoods?
Great question. Sandy said that's a great question. It is a great question. But you know what? We can't do it with one person. We got one person on the streets, Don Riley on the streets, trying to control blight. It's impossible. But you got to be strict with every ordinance. We got to be strict with all these absentee landlords. We got landlords that live in California, stayed up, not Kentucky, stayed up. So we got to get some more people with Don in the summertime and the wintertime. But we got to get more manpower here, because we're never going to combat this blight issue with just one person.
Thank you. Joe Tucker.
I agree with Mr. Burns that we definitely need to have more manpower. There is no way that one person can do the job that Don does. But I also agree with him in the fact that there has to be better enforcement of it. And whether it's one person or it's 10 people, you have to enforce the rules that are on the books for everybody equally. I also think that every year you have to go back and you have to look at your blight ordinances. You have to go back and update things. Things don't stay the same forever, and you have to continually change and progress with things as they come along. So you have to reassess yourself every year and make sure that you're up to date with everything that's going on.
Thank you. Jerry Gifford.
The blight in our city, we talk about this all the time. We were thinking about raising the landlord rate for rental properties, but that punishes the good landlords. The bad ones get away with it, the good ones get punished. So there has to be a way. In fact, we put it off at the last council meeting. If it aired, I'm not sure if that one aired or not, because some of them don't. But we put it off, and we're thinking about it again. And I think that the one person, obviously, as Mr. Tucker and Burns said, that's not enough. But it's also the citizens' responsibility. When they see it, turn it in, and it go through the channels. Don't just come and come to us. Go to the channels, and that's the way it has to be done. In the military, you have an organization. You have a squad leader on down. You have to do the same thing in your city. Don Riley is what we have right now. He's doing his best job. Maybe not satisfactory to some people, but he is trying, and we're going to try to get more people to help him. But it's also up to you guys. We need your help as well.
Thank you. Jeff Haas.
I agree that we definitely need more manpower to address this issue. And as I was going through the town, I was knocking on someone's door, and he came out to his porch. And we stood on his porch, and he pointed to the house next to him. And it was a vacant property, blighted. He said, I have to call Don Riley 3 or 4 times every few months, and I can't get him up here. Then I have to call either a council member or mayor to finally get someone up here. And I said, you know, what can we do to help remedy that situation? And he said, I don't understand, at the last council meeting, you just authorized $21,000 for an economic development on the riverfront. Why can't we put more money towards fighting that, taking care of more of our immediate needs that we're facing right now? And looking at his house right there, I can understand where he's coming from. We have to look at our financial resources and making sure that we're allocating them the best we can.
Thank you. Ben Baker.
I think everybody in this room, as well as along this panel, agrees that it's more than a one-man's job to fight blight in this town. And as I go door to door, I see it in people who take good care of their property, or their property value is being brought down by the person 2 doors down who's not taking care of their property. So I think we need to hold those people that we are currently finding with blight accountable, keep finding them again until their house is put in lien. Perhaps somebody takes care of it that would want to take more care of that property. It's a big job, and more than one man can handle right now, so we need to look into other avenues.
When we first started on the historic board, trying to inventory all the buildings in the historic district, one of the ideas that we came up with was to take each individual block and do an inventory of that block. And I think blight control, blight enforcement should be doing that in every block. Every block has one worst house that's bringing down the rest of the block. You get that house taken care of, and the rest of the block comes up. Then you come back around again the next time. I think we have to be very careful, though, because we do have some property owners in town that live there and that just cannot afford to keep the houses up. I say nail the ones where the people don't live in town, or where they are rentals, where the rent money's going out of town. Other cities handle blight, are starting to handle blight a lot differently. In fact, in Newport, the code enforcement officer is actually part of the police department. I would revamp our code enforcement, separate that from building inspection, and I would have the code enforcement officer working hand in hand with the police, who go in a lot of different buildings, and they can see the code violations. I would look at a blight task force and also a land grant similar to 3CDC, where governments can buy these vacant properties, fix them up, or sell them to a flipper and get somebody in the house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Denny Lynn.
Yes, blight is the problem, and I think a lot of it does have to do with absentee landlord, but it also has to do with some landlords that do live in the city of Dayton. As they all said, one man cannot do that job. I know I've seen it through my years that we've gone into them, and I don't even know how people can even attempt to live in these. At the last council meeting or so, they talked about finding a way to get in to possibly do inspections to make these fees that they want to charge more legit. And I think that is definitely an option they ought to look at, is find some way to go in and do these inspections. Because, technically, Don Riley is not allowed to go in these houses to see what the true problem is with them, how bad they actually are. But if you initiate some type of fee for these to where you can send somebody in to inspect them, and I think you'll be very surprised that you're going to find a lot more properties in worse condition than what they appear to be on the outside.
Thank you, Denny. Jennifer Sierra.
Denny's right. A lot of these properties are way worse on the inside. I look around and I think, how the heck did this town get to this shape? I mean, it used to be a beautiful, glorious town. I look at these historic pictures, and I'm amazed at how beautiful this town once was, and I think, I can see it. I look at it through my rose-colored glasses, and I can see it there once again. I too would like to see another codes officer, but we can't afford that. We can't even afford another new fire truck. And frankly, we really need a new fire truck. We really need more police officers. To speak to Joe's comment about the police officer, being part of the code's involvement, we have our police officers are required to submit code violations when they see them, and they're supposed to be keeping an eye out for that, and they're supposed to submit a couple. I don't know what the quantity is, but several a week. I think that that's a good place to start. But
Thank you, Jennifer.
Citizens Watch is important too.
Thank you. Kathy Volter.
to piggyback on what Jennifer said, the blight inspector role, we could have 2, 3 blight inspectors and still not really put a dent in it, but our budget's dependent on that. So until we can bring in some revenue off of the riverfront or additional properties, I don't see that in our future. What we need to look at is better ways that we can combat the blight. I was just made aware of what Covington is doing. They actually can go in and take nuisance properties, repeat blight offenders, and empty properties, and can actually acquire it by eminent domain. And then through eminent domain, that property can be handed over to a developer to either A, fix up and sell, or to raise and put something else up. So we need to get on board with this non-court tested process that they have. And also, the absentee landlord, according to Don Rowley, is not the vast majority of the blight. Believe it or not, it's not the rental absentee. Over the top of that is owner occupied. So that is something that is a misnomer.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Leslie Carr.
Well, it seems obvious to me we don't have the budget to add another code enforcement. What we have to do is give him more tools. But we have to stay on it. About a half a block from me on 8th Street, there's a house that was a rental property that burned in 2004. It is still boarded up to this day. 10 years, I think, is long enough to get something done about that. Now, I listened over several council meetings where right across the street there was a big debate about how the dumpster should be enclosed in the apartment building. You have to look at that whole picture. That apartment building is on the National Register of Historic Places. They could be eligible for, funds to fix up the outside, and we're worried about moving around a dumpster and enclosing it. When people had to move and sell their house right next door to a house that had been burned out for 10 years.
Thank
I
you.
think it's unexcusable.
Okay. I think we got just enough time for one more question, if we all follow the rules. And we'll start with Joe Tucker on this one. Last question. As cities continue to struggle in its combat of the widespread heroin problem, what role do you see the city council playing in the fight?
As far as the heroin epidemic, I guess you would call it, I don't think this is this Dayton issue by any means. This is all of northern Kentucky. This is regional. I know that we've got some bad publicity over the last couple years, but as more and more information comes out, we realize that this is everywhere. This is not just here. I think that the biggest thing that we can do as a city council would possibly be to get the information out to everybody. You have to let people know that there are things that they can do to help themselves. Once a person gets stuck into the heroin problem or any drug problem, they need to know that there is people that can help them and get them a way out of it, I guess. And that's really the only role that I see a city can do, is just make people aware of their options.
Jerry Gifford.
I guess you've all heard of Dr. Jeremy Ingalls. If you want some advice and you want something that you can do as an individual, you can give him a call. You can get it on his website. Kathy Boulders has worked with him before, and I'm sure that he can fill you in if you don't have enough information. But we are not the only one. We're one of a few in this area that we pay the most attention to. I think if you listen to the fire chief, he can tell you that there have been more overdoses in other cities than Dayton. That's nothing to be proud of, but it's everywhere. It's in Fort Thomas, it's in Bellevue, it's in Newport, and it's not something you can turn your back on. It's scary, it hurts, and we're losing a lot of lives. We're bringing people back to life for them to go back and do it again. So what can we do about it? At this point, I don't know. I'm working with Dr. Jeremy Ingalls now and a few other people to try to do my part. That's all I can tell you.
Thank you. Jeff Haas.
I think everybody recognizes that this isn't just a Dayton issue. This is a regional issue. And as I touched on in my opening statement, is part of the things that we want to bring to council is teamwork. We want to be able to work with other people in our community, other leaders, other cities. I see Jason Steffen and Ken Reckton in the back. Should they get elected, our council members should be working with them, Dennis Keene, whoever, to come down and help us out, help the region, because we need it, the whole county needs it, the whole region needs it. Kenton County, Boone County, all of us need help with this problem. And it's probably going to require state funding to help us deal with this as well. So we need to all work together to work on trying to resolve this issue in all of our communities.
Thank you. Ben Baker.
As everyone said, it's not just a Dayton issue. In fact, I think Dayton's done a good job of letting people know, hey, we are not open for business for this trade. We are going to fight it as hard as we can. We need to continue to contact our state legislators and let them know we need tougher enforcement on dealers who are dealing this poison to our children. We need better help for those who are being caught up in this addiction so they can get off it and live a normal life. They don't want to be like that. I've personally worked with Transitions located in Bellevue. They have a house here in Dayton. They also have a house over in Covington and throughout the northern Kentucky area. They're a great organization that really needs our help. So as far as council goes, I encourage you and everyone else to learn more about the addiction itself and to reach out to those who need help and point them in places like Transitions and work with Transitions.
Thank you. Joe Neary.
As it was alluded to, one of the big problems we have in Kentucky is that our heroin possession laws are much more lax than they are in Ohio. So we have a lot of people coming across the bridge, using here and ODing here, which is driving up our costs on ambulance runs and Narcan. We have to work with the state legislators to get that law changed to make it as tough, if not tougher, than Ohio. As far as what council can do, that's one thing that we can do. The other thing we can do is support our police department. We should have enough police on so that when someone's arrested and they're taking them down to Campbell County, it's not free reign for 2 hours while the cop is gone. That's crazy. And they know it. They're smart. These are not all bad people that get addicted to heroin. I've seen really good families affected by this terribly too. But we see so many obvious heroin users around. Let's price them out of this market. Let's get our property and rent values up so that they'll go elsewhere to live. You can't legislate them out, obviously, or everybody would, but we can encourage them to go elsewhere with better police work, the cameras, and better enforcement and better cooperation with the schools.
Thank you, Joe. Denny Lynn.
Heroin, it's bigger than Dayton. It's something that's all around you. There's people that could be sitting next to you that you don't know. This is too big for Dayton to try and handle. And I echo what all the candidates have said already, is that we needed to go to the county and state to get the help to take care of this problem. What the exact answer is, I have no clue. I'll be honest with you. I mean, because it is so widespread but we do need to do something, and I think that's where we work with our county people and our state people to work out and find the problem, or situation, take care of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Sierra.
As far as I can see it, it starts with the legislation. Our police arrest the drug dealers, and within 24 hours, those guys are back out on the streets. If you're a drug dealer and you're selling meth and heroin and someone dies of a drug overdose, you should be charged with manslaughter. That's it. That's the way it should be. And there should be no, second chances on that. Put them away so they cannot do it again. And then I started a neighborhood watch program. We may not be able to afford more police right now, but we can all watch and we can all report what we see, and we can do it anonymously. If we work together, we can clean up our town. And then we're letting those drug dealers know from the bottom up, we are not taking it. We're not gonna settle for it. We're gonna report you. You're not gonna know who's reporting you, but we're all watching you. You've got many eyes on you in this community.
Thank you. Kathy Volker.
We all know, we've seen, heroin does not discriminate. Doesn't matter where you live, what your checkbook balance is, it's everywhere. It's a source of numerous thefts in town. We know that's why coppers being ripped out of homes and their break-ins. these people who do this don't want to do this. It's a matter of survival. I think one thing we have to do is educate our kids. Educate, educate, educate. Tell your kids one time you're hooked, your brain's hooked on it, and that's it. That's all it takes. We need to let this be known to every kid we see. Share that with them. People are suffering, families are suffering. We're losing a generation. Every citizen in the city should follow the House bill, the heroin House bill that failed last session because they tacked on some garbage bills onto it. It should have been left by itself and voted in. If we follow it this year, everybody needs to write. I think in the city we ought to put it on the Facebook page. Here's the address. You need to get with the representatives. You need to write everybody you can and talk about this and to pass this, to get the funding, to get people into rehab, and to work on arresting and prosecuting those that sell the drug that kills our kids.
Thank you. Leslie Carr.
Well, as far as city council, I feel that it's our obligation as citizens to reach out if there are community members that want to help. You could send someone to research judges' records. How many times do they let someone off for dealing heroin? And we need to look into options for treatment. There are grants available. I know there's one available, Interact for Health in Cincinnati. They have drug awareness programs for the school. We can find our citizens that want to help if we truly engage them. That's, other than supporting our police, the best I can come up with.
Thank you. Bill Burns.
I want you to realize something. This heroin epidemic started about 3 or 4 years ago when our state government got rid of all the pain pill doctors. Now they have heroin that's cheaper than a six-pack of soft drinks. But ladies and gentlemen, heroin is a disease just like any other drug, just like overeating, gambling, or whatever. You have to treat it as a disease. And arresting is not the only answer. We must give these people some help. And most importantly, we just can't do it alone. We must get on the backs of every state official down in Frankfort and hold them accountable. They spend our money, they say wisely, well, they need to bring it back to Northern Kentucky.
Thank you. Okay. I think that concludes the questions for the city council candidates. I hope you learned a lot from this round of questioning. I hope you take the opportunity to question them on your own outside of this. So let's give a hand to our candidates. You'll be voting for 6 of these individuals on November 4th. Thank you all.